Hello guys, in previous lesson we created Selenium console application where we navigated into this URL of Facebook, and then we sent keys, this login username and the password, and then we clicked on the button, submit button, and that allowed us to log in into the Facebook. So in this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to create a unit test and then bring this code into a separate service project. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to add a new project, and it's going to be a test project. So I'll just type in the test. And I'm going to say, I'm going to pick this one, I guess, Microsoft test project. But you're free to use in the future. Maybe we will use an unit or just a unit test project. Okay, and well, let's go ahead and try this one. Unit test project .NET framework or .NET Core. Yeah, .NET Core is. Let's go ahead with .NET Core, and let's not even bother to change the project name. We'll just leave it as test project. Go next, and .NET 5.0 is okay. So we'll just create a test project, and it comes with test method and test class, just like that. So what we want to test is the first thing is we want to do is we want to launch. We want to write a method to launch our browser, for instance. Yeah. So let's go ahead and create a static method. We'll just call it static. Oh, sorry. Even before we start, let's since we're going to use Selenium, let's install Selenium and Selenium Chrome in this project. If you guys remember, we used to right click on this on the project, and then using a NuGet packages, we used to just type in the Selenium name, and then that would give us options, different versions. So we had to install WebDriver and a Chrome WebDriver since we're using a Chrome. So let's go ahead and install it. So WebDriver done, and next one is we're going to install Chrome WebDriver. Install. Okay, it is done. So now we can go back to our unit test, and then let's include its namespace using openqa.selenium and using openqa.selenium. Selenium.chrome. Okay, now we can use Selenium. So let's create now a static method called launch browser. So for that we need just to type in static WebDriver launch browser. Okay, and inside we're going to have let's say Chrome options, like var options, a new Chrome options, let's say like this, and then let's add some arguments to our options. So okay, options, add argument, and let's just give an argument saying like start maximized, for instance. Yeah? And let's create another argument, and we'll just call it disable notifications. Yeah. And we're going to initialize the Chrome driver. We'll say var driver equals to new Chrome driver environment. It's going to be environment dot current directory options. We're going to pass our options to it. So this one is not included, so let's include system. So now it's there, and once it's initialized we can just return a driver. So this will launch the browser. Okay, so let's just prettify it. Well, yeah. Okay, next thing is we need to we can go ahead with our test method. We can just say var web driver, and then we're going to call our launch browser. Let's launch it. So next thing is what we want to do is we want to initialize the method or the class that we're going to create in a minute. So but first let's go ahead and start typing in, even though it doesn't exist. We'll just say it's going to be a Facebook auto, and then we'll just say new Facebook auto, and we're going to pass WebDriver to it. Next thing is we want to call Facebook auto. Well, even before that, well, let's go ahead and try Facebook auto dot, and we're going to have a login method inside, and we're going to pass our username and the password. Okay, so it's going to be this, I believe it was like that, and once it's done, our WebDriver is going to quit the browser. So okay, so we created this test method with non-existing class, but let's check if we can create it, generate it. So instead of typing in, we can always just say and then generate this class. So let's just go ahead and tell it to generate it. Okay, so now it looks like it's happy. It created this class. Now it's unhappy about this method because it doesn't also exist. So we'll say just generate this also. Okay, good. Now it's happy. But if you go to Facebook Auto, you will see that this class is not implemented yet. So now all we need to do is just implement it, and then we can reuse our code from the console and then implement this method. Okay, I pretty much copy pasted the code from the console application. So it gets the finds element by email. This is the URL we're visiting, and then it finds the element by pass by ID, and then it says send the key. So now next thing, all we had to do is in our code is in console application. If you guys remember here in program CS, it simply clicked on that button, and then that would trigger the login. But in this example, let's use something called WebDriver wait library, and we need to install it first. So let me install it. It's also part of Selenium. So we'll just go to NuGet packages, and we're going to say Selenium wait, and it's called. This is actually it's a helper. So let's install it. Okay, it's called .NET Selenium Extras .wait helpers. So install it. Okay, it's done. And the next thing is we need to, instead of simply clicking on the element that we're going to find by ID, which is like checkpoint submit button, we're going to wait for the page to be fully loaded. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a separate method for that, and then we'll just name it click and wait for page to, let's call it to load. Yeah, okay, so this method doesn't exist, and again let's get a help from him from the Visual Studio. So it's going to generate this private void method for us, and again it's not implemented. Well, this method, in order to find elements and click or do the clicking, it needs a web driver. It needs a driver, yeah, object. So we need to pass to it like a iWebDriver, and let's call it driver. And also we need element locator. We're going to pass a locator. So we'll just say by element locator, and let's also pass something like timeout integer value. So next time if we want to pass 10 seconds, or we can pass 10, or if we want to send the timeout as 15 seconds, we can also send like 15. So default value of it would be let's say 10 seconds. Yeah, so we pass this. So now our call of this method is saying like you need to pass some values to it. So we'll just say WebDriver, and then we're going to pass .xpath, and we need to pass here the XPath of the button, and plus we need to pass time. Yeah, we need to pass timeout integer value, but since it has a default value, we don't have to this time. Maybe next time we're going to pass it. So and next thing is I'm going to get and copy paste the XPath of the button here. Okay, let me get it from the browser, or I think I have it here. Yeah, I have it here in my console application. So I'm going to copy paste it from here. Let me get it. There you go. And we're going to go here. There you go. So it's done. Next thing is we need to implement this method now. Okay, so just to make sure that it can catch some errors, we can use try catch this time. Okay, let's use try and catch. So the possible catch would be there could be no such element, since Facebook usually changes its element IDs or element names all the time. So we will just say no such element exception, and it's going to go like that. So next thing is we need to put this inside of try element our body that actually does the job. So first thing is we need to declare that WebDriver wait method. So we'll just say wait equals to new WebDriver wait. Okay, so well, it doesn't exist on the the reason for that is we haven't included the namespace yet, so which is okay. And we'll say time span. We'll just I know it accepts a driver, and then it accepts the timeout. So we'll just say time span from seconds, and we'll pass our timeout value to it. Okay, so let's take a look if it can catch it. Yeah, it says WebDriver. Yeah, let's use this one. Yeah, actually, instead of just including it in the namespace here on top, you can simply even call it like right away from the code. Okay, so next thing is we need to create our elements. We'll say driver dot find elements, and we'll pass it our element locator. Okay, just in case, let's check if element has any, and if it's not empty, yeah, if it has any number of objects in it. So we'll just check it for elements, and count equals 0, then we just say there's no such an element. Okay, if it does, then we will say var elements, let's get the first or default, first or default. Yeah, this needs a more namespace, so that's why it's not recognizing it yet. So we'll say e dot displayed. So let's try to include it. It needs a link. So include link. Now it's happy. So and next thing is we want to click. Okay. And this is the line where it waits. Okay, so we'll say wait until Selenium extras dot wait helpers and expected conditions. So it has different methods that you can pick. You can check if element exists. In this case, you have to give it a locator, which is an ID, name, or you can use element visible, or if you're accepting some alert, then you can use alert. In our case, let's just simply use our title contains. So once it's loaded, if the title contains something called Facebook, then we consider it as loaded. Okay, and inside of this if statement, let's put some exception. Let's throw some exception. Throw new no such element exception, and we'll say no elements, and we'll just add our element locator. Okay, so this is what we're going to pop up in case there's no element. Okay, inside of catch we can return, or we don't have to return, we can write in console something, but this is not a good idea to put to do the write line to the console, because we're going to use this class in our test method. So we don't want to be dependent on console. Okay, so let's just leave it for now. Okay, well, we could simply put some string or some exception here, or like a boolean saying like false, that meaning that it failed, and then just return it. Okay, so for now let's just leave it empty. Okay, and let's check if this code works. Okay, so let's go back to our unit test and let's take a look. Okay, now it's all happy. We have implemented Facebook Auto, and inside everything looks fine. So, and the next thing is what we need to do is we need to run this test. Okay, so we need to just click on this test menu item and then say run all tests. Okay, and test will start running, and on the background I have this browser doing automated test. Okay, so yeah, it ran and then it opened up the browser, it logged in, and then test has passed. Our unit test has passed. So basically in this lesson what we learned is we learned how to run this our tests using a test explorer, and we created our unit test and brought our code into the separate class so we can unit test it. Okay, so we couldn't use our program CS console application for unit testing because it has too many dependencies, like you know, it's meant for for the console application, right? We could have something like console write, console read, these kind of things, and then so instead of that, instead of using console application, we created a separate class, and we called the separate class method, and we unit tested it in a separate project. Okay, usually these service classes are also created in a separate project, like let's say services project, and then that project is included in your test project, and then you call that method from there. So it has usually a separate layer. Okay, so our test has passed and we're all happy. And thank you guys. Have a nice day.